All right, Mr. Walgren, I believe, will be in charge of this section.
Thank you. Can you hear me well enough? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. This evening, the council will be considering a resolution to release the right of first offer to purchase the former West Hills Lodge building. The short story, gentlemen, is this. The Lee Foundation is a nonprofit corporation established by Dr. Lawrence Lee and Anna Lee. The foundation purchased the property from Azul Opportunities LLC on December 15, 2020. Azul purchased the property from the West Hills Lodge Inc. on 12/19/20. On September 1 of 1981, going way back, the county conveyed the property to the city to facilitate the transfer to the West Hills Lodge to include the following restrictions. One, the property was to be used as a halfway house for persons who were alcoholic or chemically dependent persons. And if such use ceased, the title would revert back to Steele County. Second item was if Steele County ever desired to sell the property, the city would have the first opportunity to buy the same. In December 2020, the county released its previous deed restrictions. And on January 26, 2021, the city released the property from its previous deed restrictions, and the city and foundation entered into a new agreement which included the following two new restrictions. One, if the foundation, we're talking about the Lee Foundation, if the foundation ever decided to sell the property, it would give the city written notice of its intent, and the city would then have the right of first offer for 60 days to purchase the property. The foundation gave the city notice on April 30th, 2026, so the city has until June 29th to exercise its right if it chose to make a first offer. A right of first offer is similar to a right of first refusal. A right of first offer provides the opportunity to bid on the property before it is put on the market. This contrasts with the right of first refusal, which allows matching an existing offer. The issue here is on April 30th, 2026, after giving us notice of its intent to sell the property to a third party for $778,000. Thus, the council has to decide whether it wishes to make an offer on or before June 29th. The budget impact would be $778,000. Now, we do have Lena Lee, the daughter of Dr. Lee and Anna Lee, available on the speaker phone.
We do on Teams?
Yes. And there we are. Good afternoon, Lena.
Good afternoon, everybody.
And why don't you please just introduce yourself and give a description of what the plans are for the West Hills Lodge property.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone. My name is Lena Lee. I am here representing the foundation and speaking on behalf of Lawrence and Anna. I have been the one running point on the transaction itself, and also informally requesting through Mark's office the city's options on this matter. So just to supplement with what Mark reported in his staff report, we have been in discussion with a third party to sell this property, this asset at Florence, probably in the past 3 months of discussion. We entered into a purchase agreement with this potential buyer about 2 months ago, and have been working with Troy Klecker and with Mark on the matter since. So I'm here to answer any questions that the council has in regards to our ownership, to our knowledge of what the next buyer may be doing, and any questions pertaining to the city's desire to right, to take part, I guess, in this transaction. So I'll pause there, Mark, unless there's something very specific, you think I can describe to the council members.
Could you tell the council generally what you have an understanding of what the purchaser of the building has in mind?
Sure. So when our family purchased the building in 2021, it was vacant. It continues to be non-occupied today. The best and highest use we consider the past few years to be a group home or an office alternatively. This particular buyer is interested in pursuing housing for their employees under the state's H-2A program. So I believe that when the permits will be applied and referred back to the city planning and building department, it will be for group housing for this employer who operates a nursing home, a plant nursery, business in Owatonna. So that is the intended use. It's one that I believe Anna Lee has been working with city planning in Troy for years on, and we were not able to complete the change of use on. So here is a potential next owner who has a more specific business plan that is suitable for the building.
Do the members of the council here have questions from Ms. Lee?
That was a question I was gonna ask.
Any others? I think we're up to date.
So this is on the agenda for tonight to vote on, if the first right of refusal on it, Mark, is that correct?
A right of first offer.
Oh, right of first offer.
And the resolution that I prepared is one that would indicate that we were declining the first offer. And if the council changes its mind, the council means that I'd have to change the resolution. So in any event, Troy, do you have anything you want to add to this?
Oh, we've had discussions on this property with the Lee Foundation on getting a use. It's been a group home previously. It's sort of situated and designed for that type of use. And so having people living there has been what the use has been for many years. And so we did do a zoning on it to make it compatible a while ago when it was under the foundation, and so this is a suitable use for it. Obviously, when the new owner does take possession and they want to do any modifications or such, all that will run through our planning, zoning, and building inspection. Just to do plan review on it to make sure everything is compliant.
Thank you.
All right, council discussion. I guess my question is anybody in favor of wanting to buy it? I have not heard anything from anyone that they were interested. Go ahead, Dan.
I had approached administration while purchasing this building, just to make the West Hills campus whole. I know there's a bunch of folks out there in our audience that are really concerned about the West Hills campus and keeping it as a campus. Here's an opportunity to bring that building and that property back into the campus. It would cost about 4 levy points. I'm surprised no one that's fighting for this West Hills site in that location, that they're all up in the arms about it, are not more interested in bringing that back into the fold of the West Hills campus. Maybe that's on the poor side of town, and the building that we're talking about is on the rich side of town, I don't know. But where is the uproar, if you will? Where is the drive to make our campus whole? Apparently it's a little bit selective. Administration asked if I had any particular idea in mind for the building, and I said no. She said, well, why then would we wanna spend 4 levy points, $800,000 on another old building? We have all kinds of old buildings. I just wanted to see if there's any movement out there to bring the campus, to make it whole again.
Don, anything from you tonight? Oh, sorry.
Nope.
Frank?
No.
Dave?
I've been in that building a few times during my career, and when we get severe weather, that thing is not gonna be affected whatsoever. That is got like 12-inch walls. But I had hoped possibly that could have been a location for the PD, but we would have had to take the carpenter shop down. There was not enough acreage there.
All right, thank you, Dave. Do we need to have any further discussion, or is that the end of that for now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Ms. Lee. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for all of your time.
And the matter will be taken up, at the council meeting.
Okay, our next
See you
item,
then.
is Owatonna, and we're gonna go to Chief Mondale for that.
Council Vice President Voss, can I approach over to the copy of the ordinance?
Yes, sir.
Just have one copy, but I'm doing some reading after this.
Okay, you can get back. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'd like to introduce, or have, ladies from Owatonna, Allison, Sue introduce themselves. They'll be joining me in tonight's presentation and here to help answer any questions you may have.
Lucille Larson, Secretary and Community Outreach Director for Owatonna.
Alex Seifert, Treasurer of Rainbow.
All right, Mayor and Council, the reason why I wanted to call this meeting, or at least have this study session, is to discuss the event permit for Owatonna that you're gonna actually see tonight in the consent agenda. It comes with, deserves a little bit of attention based on last year's event. And so by approving this agenda, I want you to understand and support what the designated area of this permit will entail. And that's what law enforcement's gonna need to help clarify a response and to help support our operations for this year's event. So I'm just gonna give you a little bit of a brief summary of the event. It's gonna occur on Saturday, July 11th. The setup is at 12 to 2. The event will occur from 2 to 7 p.m. and the takedown will be from 7 to 8. That'll occur on a Saturday in Central Park. Within the event permit, the applicants here have requested some spaces within the right-of-way, which is gonna be used for food trucks. Parking of food trucks. So we can certainly look at the map here that we have ahead of us. It's gonna include Park Square, Broadway, partial West Park Square, but nothing on Main Street. The map is facing, top of the map is north. And reference point of the fire department is in the southwest corner, the bottom left corner of this map. Within the application, they're also requesting sound amplification devices, which is required, an ordinance that is required by permit, that before they use that sound amplification devices, they need to be issued a permit. That is part of this application. No alcohol will be served. The facilities that are gonna be requested is the band shelter, which is gonna include the pad in front of the band shelter. The sidewalks that are going north to south, east and west through Central Park, that is also gonna be part of the designated area. The perimeter sidewalks around the park are not gonna be part of the designated area. They will be open, free open to public use. And then as it relates to our ordinance, we don't have exclusive use of the park, so this park remains open to anybody that wants to come through. However, the designated area that is highlighted with the green line around Central Park is what we're recommending to be the designated area for this event. And that is based on the number of applicants or the number of people that are expected to attend, in addition to the number of vendors that are stationed on those orange boxes, reddish boxes in the permit. So I believe there's about 51 boxes and about 42, according to the seal, about 42 have registered to occupy those spaces. So the event is pretty much going to fill up this whole park. Over the course of the last, I'd say, 9 months, we've met multiple times with Great Owatonna to discuss this approach and to come up with this best design or the best use of this park that they're requesting. So part of this here is really essentially law enforcement's plan in addition to the use of the park. As you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, that's going to be what we're going to designate as a free speech zone. In my opinion, it serves as an area within the park because the park is open to the public, but it's also within sight and sound of the activities occurring. So in the event somebody wants to protest the event, that will be the designated area for them to go. I would like to call your attention to some ordinances that are going to be governing this event. And this is some things that just went into effect July 1, 2025. I would like to read that verbatim, just so council has the benefit of hearing what this all means. So under Ordinance 93.030, event permits for the use of a designated park area, the following ordinance says, a designated area means the specific area, shelter, pavilion, trail, green space, or other facility for which the event permit is issued. The event permit does not give exclusive use of the park or the permittee, but does grant the permittee the rights to use a designated area during the time for which the event permit is issued. The park is still open to the public. Notice of the event permit shall be posted at the park entrance or other conspicuous location at the designated area. The permittee must have the event permit in their possession as evidence of the right to use the designated area. I'd like to turn to page 3. The approval of the permit. The City Council may issue a permit for the use of the designated area of the park and park facilities if the event is, number 1, consistent with the public use and enjoyment of the park. Number 2, does not endanger persons using the park or park property. Number 3, is not a nuisance as prohibited under 93.029 noise in public parks, or 95.05 public nuisances, public park nuisances prohibited, except as permitted by the city. And finally, number 3, interference. If a person or persons other than participants are in the designated area upon the permittee's arrival, or who interferes with the permittee use of the designated area, the permittee shall show such person or persons the event permit and politely request that they leave the designated area. If any problems arise out of the permittee's use of the designated area, the permittee shall contact the Owatonna Police Department. No person shall in any manner disturb, disrupt, or interfere with any permitted event, including causing any loud noise by the use of any sound amplification devices or by other means in violation of City Ordinances 93.029, noise in public parks, and 95.05, public nuisance noises prohibited. So speaking with the ladies, they are actually going to have their own security on site. In addition, the event will be staffed by my staff at the Owatonna Police Department. Do you have any questions, discussion, questions for the ladies? Go ahead, Mr. Wilkie.
In the alternate protest zone, there's no amplification of sound involved in that area, okay? But there is amplification of sound from the band shell, right? Now last year, you had your own security there, which was not much. Are these new security you've got coming in?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how many of our police officers, I know in your application you asked to have police officers on site all the time the event was run. How many police officers are we talking about? The whole shift there, or?
Well, Mr. Wilkie, it's not required with a permit. However, we decided that we are gonna be staffing the event, we're gonna be on site. So it's not necessarily required like it is for a street dance, but at our discretion, we are gonna be assigning staff to the event.
Okay, and are those on shift people or paying overtime for these folks that are gonna be there?
It will be an overtime impact. I don't wanna dedicate staff that are on duty because they have the whole city to cover for emergency calls. We need to dedicate staff for this, so it will be a callback requiring overtime.
And is that overtime expense pushed back on the taxpayers, or is this something that the event people take care of?
The taxpayers are paying for this.
Okay. And I'm not certain, like last year it got to be a real fiasco, and certainly an ugly scene. Okay, absolutely. Would you have approved of Gestapo-like tactics last year when those folks were on the sidewalk in front of your bandstand? Officers, security with batons pushing these people, physically pushing these people out of the way? And would you approve of that if these folks that are protesting get like that again, loud and try and push onto the sidewalk? Is your security prepared to handle that? Or is that something that they will look at Owatonna police officers to get in their face and give them heave ho? I just don't want Owatonna to get in the middle. I want everyone to be safe, everyone to protest, everyone to enjoy the afternoon that's planned, and rightly so. I hope it's a terrific day for it. But I don't want to see Owatonna get in the middle of some civil rights lawsuit, either from one side saying we're not protecting people, or from the other side saying you're not allowing us to counter protest. And that gives me a little bit of pause.
Yeah, I totally understand that, Mr. Wilkie. We have, at some of those meetings that Chief Mondale mentioned, we have also met with the city attorney and the city prosecutor to determine what would be appropriate. Using this designated use area and a free speech zone would allow us to essentially tell any protesters that you are not allowed to interfere with this. It clarifies things for us, which was not in place last year. So if they are in front of the stage, for example, they are asked to leave. If they do not leave, then it becomes the police department's decision per the designated use ordinance.
It would be police department as opposed to your security.
Correct.
Who's gonna be the bad guy?
Well, we worked with security last year. I would probably say we weren't impressed with their response. Sounds like a new outfit is coming in this year. We have not met them yet, but that'll be part of our planning to coordinate with them to see what their level of engagement is gonna be. So we have to see what that looks like. Just to add on to some of the comments here is, like Alex had mentioned here, we have this ordinance in place now, and that's why we need to know what is a designated area for this event. This is what the police department has been pushing for. This whole time is for us to define that designated area. That's why we are here explaining that to you. So when you approve this permit tonight on consent, you're giving law enforcement the authority that this is the area designed to the event permit. And then in addition to that, the interference clause under the 93.030, paragraph 1, on the interference. This is gonna give us the tools that I feel like we need to keep this event safe. Do I believe that there could be conflict? There could be.
That's the bottom line.
Yep.
Everybody's safe. And have we heard any of the winds blowing? Are these hooligans gonna show up again? Do we know?
I think it's safe to anticipate that they will. What we also know about the group that has joined us in the past several years is they are not interested in physical conflict, and they do typically follow directions of law enforcement.
Perfect. Thank you.
In addition, they like to test law enforcement. They like to see where the boundaries are at, and they will push it. So policing these events in public spaces is very challenging. We have to help protect the event permit and the attendees there trying to enjoy their day. Meanwhile, at the same time, we have to balance the interests of the people who wish to protest. So we find ourselves in the middle, and you have to be able to interpret these rules and regulations on the spot. I feel like this interference clause that went into action here July 1 last year, is the tool that the city has established that will help us support our work.
Chief, just a question. I know you got highlighted exactly where the protest zone is. Are they allowed to walk the sidewalks around the perimeter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they don't have to stay in that area. And if they interfere with people trying to get to the food vendors, because that's not within that area.
They're outside, so it's gonna take some discretion and some law enforcement, observation to decide what that looks like. So we'll have to come armed with additional, understandings of other city ordinances and how to enforce that if they're going to interfere and interfere with those people, using the food trucks. But yes, they're technically outside the perimeter of that designated area, so the rules kind of change. So we have explained that to our planning group with Owatonna, so they understand that, and the sidewalk is free passage. Where I feel like we can restrict activity is through the east and west sidewalks, north and south sidewalks, because it still allows use of the public sidewalks on the outside. Now, once again, anybody can use those sidewalks. It's what kind of conduct or activity, behaviors you're gonna display yourself through that area. That's what we're gonna have to need to monitor.
Okay.
But as you heard in the ordinance, there are some steps that the applicants and the permittee need to take some additional steps before law enforcement just comes in and gets involved.
So, and again, I know we have the enforcement ordinance regarding noise amplification, and that's based on decibels, is that correct? Or could someone have a loudspeaker, but it doesn't reach a certain decibel level? Or is it just?
Number one, any amplified music needs a permit.
Okay.
So the question that you had asked earlier was about, yes, the event has a permit for the amplified sound. The city, in my understanding, is there has been no other request for a permit in that protected, or that free speech area. So if the city receives a request, we have to consider that or look at that, what the request is. But at this point in time, there has been no other event permits or exceptions to that.
Okay. I was just wondering if they're going around the perimeter with boom boxes and stuff that, is that acceptable? Not acceptable? Not, I know you guys would not, but I'm just worried that based on what we're hearing about the other group, they've looked at tactics that, as you said, push the limits. So I just want to make sure when we're going through the process, we have all our ducks in a row. And I'm sure Catherine will be all over this.
They have multiple printed copies of the noise ordinance.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure you're protected, we're protected, and, we don't get into, as Dan said, somebody going, hey, you're interfering with my civil liberties, so, thank you.
Any other questions?
Chief, if an officer gets hurt and is on disability, who covers that expense?
Well, if they're acting in the capacity of a police officer, they're not negligent in their duties, so that'll be covered by the city. As we are authorizing them to be working this event, so that would be, they'll fall under the city's insurance.
And for the group, are they carrying some type of liability insurance?
I don't know if that's part of the permit, I have it here. Again, that's why we're having this conversation, so that you're fully aware of what the permit involves. I have the permit here. I'm gonna give that to Mr. Warren to look at. Do you know if you have
Yeah,
requests?
so, it is, I do not believe in our permit application, but we do carry, liability insurance.
What does, Ms. Tuma, do you know when there's a street dance, is it $1 million that they have to have? What is liability coverage typically on an event?
Our liability, is it $2 million that we asked for,
Yeah.
that's $2 million.
$2 million. And this would fall under that as well, correct?
If it, if we required, I don't know that we require liability insurance for this event, unless the permit asks for it.
I didn't see if there was too much.
Depending on what kind of activity.
Without it, we're putting the city at high risk, correct? Greater risk. Mr. Walbrand?
Well, if the participants who have the permit are not the cause of the harm, they wouldn't be subject to liability harm. The protesters, if they caused the harm, one could, had a police officer receive workers' compensation in the event of his injury, the compensation carrier would have the right of subrogation over against the person who caused the harm.
So, if one of their group shoves a protester, is a concussion, we're on the hook?
The city would have to be, the city would have to be told to be negligent in some fashion, that the harm that was incurred by the innocent person who was attending the event. I don't see that, there are also exceptions, where the cities in this situation, likely would have no liability whatsoever.
Okay.
It's the same, I forget exactly what it's called, but there's an immunity that cities have in connection with injuries in park areas. So that, for example, if somebody's hiking through the woods and they break their leg, the city would not be subject to liability.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ray, you were asking about the overtime impact on the city or the police department, so I think the other thing to consider here is, the police department covers Harry Winger Marching Band, Relay for Life, Downtown Thursdays, parades, and those organizations or public events are not charged or assessed services that the police department provides. So, when the events are open to the public, they're not ticketed events, and it's not for a private business or for profit. That's typically been the standard, kind of the test. Events that are, that close the street, where there's a street dance in town and it's ticketed admission, we're gonna have one this summer at Just One More Bar. They pay for law enforcement services for that event. So, we try to use that as kind of the gauge on who gets assessed fees for our services and who doesn't. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Just one comment, it's kind of a sad statement of affairs in our society. When one group wants to celebrate, we have to go through all this stuff. Yeah, what's it coming to? Thank you.
Doug?
I just want to thank you guys for working together and getting this worked out. If I remember correctly, last year we had officers tied up at other scenes around town and response was slow, so I'm glad to hear that we'll have somebody there calming people down, hopefully. So,
We hope for safety then.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
We will now move to the park dedication. Greg Kruschke, good evening.
Yeah, if somebody could go to the click share, please, that'd be great.
Do you need?
There we go. evening, Mayor, council members. We are back this evening to talk some more on our zoning and subdivision ordinance updates. Specifically this evening, we are going to talk about parkland dedication. We've had two previous discussions on parkland dedication and what that means and what it looks like. Per direction of the council, we've been working with our consultant and essentially have two different tracks that we can go down looking at all of this. So I know we've thrown a lot of information at you in the last, we'll say since Friday, and I know it's kept coming. I apologize for some of that, but wanted to get as much information in front of you as we can and just needed some more time to develop some of that. So with you this evening, we'll talk a little bit through this presentation. Background information, parkland dedication is authorized by state statute 462.358. As we've talked about, all parkland must provide an essential nexus to the location and the funds that it's being used. We've talked a lot that funds cannot be used for maintenance. They must be for new construction or for acquisition of parkland. Some of the key findings that you'll see in the background report that's in here, per the city's capital improvement plan, we've got about $42 million over the next 10 years in capital projects within our parks areas. And then also, currently we provide a level of service at 21.6 acres for every 1,000 residents in the city. The NRPA standard is around 11.2 acres for that 1,000 residents, and that's how they measure this level of service. One of the things with parkland dedication as you go forward, generally you cannot reduce your level of service with a parkland dedication. So as you'll see at the end of the background report, basically using the numbers in our 2050 comprehensive plan, with our population, estimated population growth by 2050, that means we need approximately 200 acres of new parkland, and I'm rounding off with those numbers that are provided in the packet, but basically 200 acres of parkland by 2050. And additional land to keep up that service, assuming population growth and everything moving forward there. So with that, the presentation tonight, as we go through, I've basically taken the stuff in your reports and your packets and put it into a option 1, option 2 in this presentation as we go forward. Generally speaking, option 1 is a little bit higher level. Option 2 is a little bit lower level. And then just as the third option that we've talked about, the council does have the option to not do any parkland dedication and just move forward with how we've currently been operating as well. So the first item, determination of land or cash in lieu of for parkland dedication. Well, with all of these options, the city council is ultimately responsible for how you are going to choose your parkland dedication method. This decided whether you decide on we're going to take acreage, we're going to take cash in lieu of that acreage, or some sort of a combination of both. These are based on the comprehensive plan and the Parks and Trail Master Plan as we go forward. And then also, as always, it would be based on a formal recommendation from the Planning Commission as well as the Park and Rec Board in this case on what we should take barring a specific project. I think some are easier than others to decide. Parkland dedication, when is it required? And so with the two options, option 1, with every plat that comes forward, we're going to take it on every plat, replat, subdivision within the city. From we'll say January 1st moving forward, we would track this through GIS to know which properties have and have not dedicated towards the parkland dedication of the city. And eventually, theoretically, you would get to 100% as dedicated moving forward. So that's something that would be tracked and moved forward with. Option 2 is a little bit lighter option. We would still do it with every plat, replat, or subdivision. However, we would take out the minor subdivisions. If I decided I was going to sell 20 feet of my lot to Troy and we needed to go ahead and replat our properties together, this would take out those minor conveyances of land to adjacent neighbors. And it'd only be taken once on every piece of land moving forward. So we would track through that. So I guess what I'll ask the council is how you want to move forward with this. We could kind of hit each one of these categories. We could go through them all fast and then come back through them and kind of choose which one. How would you like to do this as we move forward? I've got about probably 20 of these slides. Go through them all and then come back through. Okay.
Yep.
Second requirement is the land suitability requirement. Required reasonably suited land as advised at the city council, a location convenient to the people to be served in size, shape, topography, geology, hydrology, tree cover, and access and location. The only difference between this is option one includes that it needs to be identified within the comprehensive plan. Next section is percentage of land dedication required for a residential development. Option one is 12%, 9%, 6% based on the net units per acre. When we define net, we would take out the public right-of-way as a portion of that. Option two is 7% of the gross area of that subdivision. So if we take that entire tract, whether it's roads, wetlands, whatever, we're taking 7% of the entire tract of land. Commercial is 5% of gross, and option two is just 4% of the gross area. And this is for land dedication. And then industrial is 4% of the gross area, or option two is 2% of the gross area and meant for trails only. And that dedication is really what our plans show as a trail network through the industrial park. And then we are also creating mixed use districts within the new zoning code. Option one basically says if the uses happen to be mixed, if it's residential and the majority of that 51% or more is residential, we use the residential rate. If it's commercial, we'll use that rate. Option two allows for some math in there and proportional to the development.
Greg, can you go back a slide? So I've got a question on option two there, in regards to, that is, industrial park. And 2% for trails only. We do have, in Mr. Burbank's ward, we do have a park that potentially there could be additional properties acquired for that. And under option two, that would not be applicable, correct?
Correct, because it's not industrial zone land. It would have to be, this is only for industrial zone land. So Costco, Minimizer, Climate by Design, those projects within our industrial areas. If it were in the residential area, then it would be residential, so it would fall under the residential subject.
Okay, so if it's the gaming park that's there would still be covered with the residential.
Yep, that would go yep, it's zoned residentially, that whole area, so it would fall under the residential.
Okay.
The residential math.
Okay.
Portion of that. Leaves us up to access. Option one states that parkland shall have a minimum of 50 feet of street frontage, and trails shall have a minimum of 20 feet where it connects to a street or sidewalk. Option two is no requirements. As you can see, when I do have an opinion, I've strongly stated that I do not recommend option two. We should be able to get to it. However, you know, it would be a little flexible in option one. If it was connecting and adding onto an existing park that had that street frontage elsewhere, then that certainly makes sense, and I think we count that street frontage there. Not every piece has to have its own street frontage. Option trail construction. Option one, as we said, is the higher level. Basically, option one looks at a trail as part of the necessary infrastructure, similar to water, sewer, city streets, sidewalks. A trail is part of that and would require that to be constructed by the developer, and that's considered basic infrastructure. It would be required to be constructed to the full city specs, and then in addition to that, they would still have to grant their full parkland dedication. Option two is a little bit lighter, as we've talked about, and there they would still be required to construct the trail, however, they would receive a credit for that. The consultant put in a credit for up to 25% of their parkland dedication fee. That could be 50%, it could be 80%, it could be whatever number the council feels if there's a credit that's deserved in that option, if that's the route you choose to go. As far as grading and other conditions, option one, land's fully graded, all rocks over 4 inches have been removed unless they're being used in the landscape area. Minimum of 4 inches of topsoil have been installed, as well as surface stabilized, planted with vegetation. And then option two really just lays back on those standards and says it's graded per the approved plan, and we're gonna turn it over to the city in suitable conditions. One's a little stricter, laid out a little harder, one's a little bit more flexible.
Big boss.
Can you go back one slide? So they can do their own trail is required to be constructed by the developer and considered basic infrastructure. Does it need to be hooked into the trail system? I mean, I know we got a couple of companies out in the industrial park that have nice trails around their own building, so they can walk at break time or something.
Yeah, this would be a public trail system, and I would say in order to do this, if somebody came in there and we had this parkland dedication requirement, that facility would need to be built, and it would be built through their property. It may not connect on both sides to somewhere else. It's not always, not everything happens sequentially. So that we may end up with some pieces in the middle that get tied into later on.
So we could make them build a trail to nowhere, basically.
Correct.
It'd be per our trail master plan.
It'd be per our trail master
They
plan.
would be
Eventually,
putting
those
it-
other links come in, and that's where theoretically the cash in lieu of comes in. People that aren't right there with that trail going through them would be contributing to build those other links coming through.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Oh, Brent, sorry.
Question, one more. Over one more, right there. So is this saying that the parkland we get would be all graded, or what happens in situations where we have development that has a wooded area that has some slopes and stuff that we want to have that area be dedicated for parkland, because we have other uses for mountain biking trails or something like that, but I think this is telling me that any parkland being dedicated has to be fully graded. I don't think we want that in every single park dedication that we receive. I think we want to preserve those natural areas as woods for other types of recreation, not just graded green space, but recreation and wooded areas.
Yeah, option one, it definitely would have to be, I agree with you, Brent. It would have to be softened up a little bit to allow for those natural areas coming in there. Option two is a little bit more per the approved plan and what we do with. It's a matter of how specific. Really, we want to get in those standards to be able to take them before they're deeded to us. Second one is timing of performance. So if they are going to be deeding us land, option one, the city deeds, they deed the lot before the city signs the Mylar for the final plat to go for recording. We have that deed in hand, or it works through a closing agency as that's moving forward and happens with the closing. Option two, the land is deeded to the city prior to the issuance of building permits. As you can see, I put my bolded opinion on there again, that we should highly recommend option one. Option two just leaves us to chasing coming through. So option one is deeded at the time, there's no questions about it. We cover the performance and the grading. Whatever needs to be done and improved, that's covered within the development agreement, very similar to all of the public improvements. The next few slides here get into the cash in lieu of the land fee. So you can see option one, this is residential land. I apologize, I got a duplicate slide here, but option of the land, 16% based on your, if it's 0 to 6 dwelling units per net acre. And then you can see that sliding scale there. For reference, and figuring this out, Westlake Meadows is 15 units per acre. As we go through this, like Air Apartments, and that would be over 15 dwelling units. As we go, Mineral Springs Estates is about 3.5, I believe, just for reference. We've come up with this value based on the sale price of land. And so if you're selling the land, that's obviously the price, and that's what the market value is. So if I'm selling my land for $1 million, we would use that per acre price, come down, do the math to get to where we get there. Second, we would use estimated land market value from the Steele County Assessor, if that's available. And the final option would be an appraisal paid for by the developer, if there was some sort of disagreement or anything with that, with the value. Yes, sir.
You just mentioned Westlake. Were this in place when they built, they would have had to pay us some money probably, right? Do you have an idea of what that would have been? And as my concern with this has been all from the start, would that have been any disincentive at all for them to not build there?
I'm not going to duck your question, but I'm going to delay your question about 5 more slides.
Okay.
All right, thank you. So, and then option 2 is a little bit lighter. It just per unit cost. You can see the math there with what it is. Single family house would be $1,000 per unit. If it was a duplex, it'd be $500 for each of those units. And then move forward. So, and commercial land, 5% of the gross area, or option 2 is $1,000 per acre. The percentages, generally speaking, in option 1 are significantly higher than option 2 and the per acre costs. Industrial, same thing. Cash in lieu would be 2% of the gross area in option 1, or $1,000 per gross acre in option 2 there. And then mixed use, really using the same formula, whichever is greater in option 1, and then proportional development in option 2. Collection of the cash fee, very similar to when would we collect this? Option 1, we would collect everything for the full subdivision at the signing of the final plat. So everything included in that full thing, every outlot, so Mineral Springs Estates per se, that had, I think, all the way up to outlot O, you know, they had 20 outlots in there. We would collect that entire 82 acres up front on option 1, right up front. Option 2 would be that we would collect anything that was due at that point in time with the final plat. We would delay all of the outlots until they were platted, final platted in the future for development. And then finally, at the city's discretion, they may come into some sort of a payment plan, working out to that into the future. Some of these get to be fairly hefty. So writing a $50,000 check or a $500,000 check certainly comes into be that. So it's really a matter of how flexible the council wants to be on when we collect those fees. Next is a waiver of requirements. Option 1, no waivers, no exceptions. Everybody pays. Anytime it comes through the subdivision process. Option 2, upon developer request, the city may waive or reduce requirements for parkland dedication within the B3 or the mixed use downtown districts. That is the north downtown area, basically, let's say from Rose Street, kind of up to North Street, in that middle area that we're designing that mixed use area for. And then this would be based on the project's just a greater benefit to the city as a whole, more than just parks, trails, or open space. So you could, pick certain properties in there or something. It'll allow some flexibility. Downtown, we'll take like the hotel project downtown was a very big project for the city to get when the courtyard came in. This would give the council an option to waive that parkland dedication fee if they wanted to within option 2, or how do we negotiate that going through that process? The final kind of thing to decide is really the allocation and how this works. Option A, then this gets into that essential nexus question. Option A is 100% retention of funds. They stay in that ward. So if Troy plats his property, he's within Ward 4, all of those funds, that $50,000 that he's contributing in parkland dedication has to be spent in Ward 4. And we have a fund for each ward. As development occurs, that sits there. This is the safest option as far as the essential nexus. And any sort of legal challenges upon that, however, it is the most restrictive on the use of funds as far as where they can be spent. Option B is really a pooling mechanism. Everything's citywide. But however, this is also the most exposure to litigation. So we could take, Troy's project in Ward 4, and we could spend it in Ward 2. And we can move that around a little bit. It gives you the most flexibility to spend the funds, however, it's the most exposure to that essential nexus proposal. Option C is called the hybrid model. Generally speaking, most communities that do this generally put 20 to 40% into the general pool of those for community-wide or larger park facilities, trails, things like that, because you don't always use the park in your specific ward, you use some that are citywide. But then the remaining of those dollars would be spent in that ward, so that, 60 to 80%, based on that math there, would still remain in Ward 4. I would take 20 or 40% of that, move it out into a general pot that could be used for anything. That is the best balance of a legal exposure and flexibility to fund these expenditures. The final slide I have, this is a parkland dedication using option 1 and option 2 back to 2021. You can see the 26-1 is the option 1 there, and then I've got some numbers as they go through. Is some in green, some in orange as they're backlighted in. As you go through, option 1 is roughly $833,000. Option 2 is roughly $257,000, and then I've also got a ward breakdown beneath there. I will say there are some heavy qualifiers in here that I do want to qualify. One, the high school was built in 2021. You can see those numbers are shy $100,000 of parkland dedication. And so the city would have had to decide, I'm sure the school district would have been asking for some sort of a work with us, facility use, shared agreement, something like that over that $100,000 in reality. The other one is Westlake Meadows, as Councilor Boss was asking. By option 1, their fee was $313,000. Option 2 was $82,000 or $83,000. We do have a park identified in that area. It would have been roughly 2.4 acres of land dedication for them. My guess is that we would have pushed them to redesign their site and use that 2.4 acres of land dedication to start to design that park out in that area instead of waiting into the future if this case was there. Now with that, they built a bunch of private parkland and private use in their development, but that isn't public. So it is a little bit of a difference. You can see some of these numbers as they come through here based on projects. Marthal or Honda by option 1 was $80,000. Option 2 was about $4,200. And then some of them we talked about the difference of conveying land to a neighbor. We've got this Brzezinski Hole edition that's transferred about back kind of 0.2 acres to a neighbor. Option 1 would have cost them $18,000. Option 2 would have been $2,000 fee that those two neighbors would have had to figure out how they were covering in that if we do go forward with some of that as well. So trying to put some real numbers to some of this. The reality, I would say this isn't a 100% reality picture because I think this would be skewed. I think those numbers are ultimately high at the end of the day. I do want to qualify that, but I wanted to put real numbers on real projects and timelines so you can see kind of what we were talking about. So that I can take questions and we could go back through and go option 1, option 2 through the whole thing.
Just one quick question. In your opinion, would any of these option 1s been a deal breaker for any of this construction going back to 21?
In my opinion, every project is tight. So probably there would have had to have been a way to do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been in front of the council asking for redevelopment TIF, generally speaking. All projects seemingly have gotten tight over the years. So whether or not it would have went forward or not, that's a great question. I keep sliding by it. But it would end up, having to figure things out again. How are we gonna put that $50,000 or $100,000 fee into the project to still make it go? What's the, does it happen or does it not? That's not a question we can necessarily answer. You take, we did a redevelopment TIF on Air Apartments. Their fee was $4,900, option 1, $22,000, option 2. Does it happen or not? Pearl Courtyard, that was a type project as well. So it's tough to say. They're not.
It becomes part of the negotiation.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these projects did involve some city participation, and that'll just be part of the conversation is, okay, well, we've got, this fee here, so, or parkland, so it just makes the negotiations a little more difficult, because a lot of these were tight. A lot of these projects did require some assistance through TIF or other means to happen, and so these fees are just gonna be part of that conversation.
So where I struggle with that is they have no problem asking for tax increment financing. But then a parkland dedication, oh, no. Can't have it both ways. I realize they're tough, but, that's for them to move the pencil. Correct?
Well, whether we have the fees or not, these projects are marginal. And so if we have these fees in there, like I said, it's gonna be, I don't think they're gonna disagree with them. They're just gonna say, well, it's gonna be harder to get this deal done with those fees. And if those are part of the conversation, well, they will become part of the conversation as to, okay, I don't think we'll be looking at waiving them, but how do we get funds for parkland and still close the gap to make the project happen again? Like I said, it's just gonna make them a little bit more difficult in figuring out how to make all the numbers work.
So whenever they do these projects, we gotta take care of stormwater, so we're digging ponds and lakes and all kinds of stuff. Can they use their stormwater around it, do a trail around it? Can that be part of it, or is that a whole separate thing?
We would not allow these stormwater facilities to be part of their parkland dedication. You know, if it was gonna be a large enough facility that we were going to maintain in the future, I guess it could be part of it, but that would be in addition to that. We wouldn't wanna use up those acres, for usable parkland that's meant for that, for their stormwater.
So the issue for me is that obviously being with EDA and all that I do, I'm in both of your offices a lot of the time. You guys do a great job and you have a feel for all these people you're working with. If we set a rigid structure and this is it, I personally would feel much more comfortable having you guys just working with these people, figuring out how to do it. And I don't know, then when you recommend this is a great solution, I know it is. But I hate to set one option and then two people go, we were gonna do 10 houses, but man, we gotta pay $100,000 for that. We're not doing that. And walking away. So anybody that wants to build a house right now, we should be patting them on the back and thanking them.
Well, housing is a high priority and increasing that tax base, so yes. I mean, generally you wanna eliminate as many obstacles for development to happen. Is this an obstacle or not, or is the obstacle we're creating development without parks, or at least funding for parks, and therefore are putting the burden back on the taxpayers, you know, to fund that. So this is a funding mechanism. I would say most cities have this. Certainly most cities of our size have this, some form of a parkland dedication fee. And so I think developers expect something as part of that, so which is why we're introducing the idea as part of our ordinances here. Now, to what level that is where we have a lot of leeway in deciding, okay, we can do something, but maybe not a ton, or we can say, hey, we wanna really increase our parks, make it much more attractive. That will draw more people to Owatonna, and that'll help us grow. So there's different ways of looking at this.
Go ahead, Doug.
Oh, so my other question here is, you got this chart here. Is this pretty much inclusive of everything, or is this just these selected things from the last 5 years?
This is every plat we have recorded since 2021.
Okay, so that's 5 years worth of development. That's great to have all those projects on there. That works out to about $50,000 a year on option 2. Obviously a lot more on option 1, so does $50,000 get us anywhere? I mean, a set of park equipment at Mineral Springs is gonna be
Option 2
$60,000,
is
$80,000.
$57,000.
Right, but it's 5 years.
Yeah.
Tie into that is, I don't know that you put one playground in for $250,000 of any size. I mean, we did, Lowe's, project for $100,000, that had a lot of staff time put in there, and we were using the container. I think where this becomes really valuable is the park land in those new developments. And so once the houses are built, it's really hard to get that 4 or 5 acre land. And so, and unless the city's coming with money to buy the land as part of that, this helps create that. And so, yeah, so this is, you know, the land is really critical because once the houses are in and the development's done, it's designed not with a park or a trail connection.
So I will mention, because this has been brought up many, many times in developments over the years, is if it is a requirement, it's an ordinance requirement, it becomes an expense to the project. The way we've sort of functioned up to this point has been, you know, a lot of our parkland has been donated over the years. And, you know, that donation can be used by the developer as a write-off and help them, you know, offset some of the profits that they potentially could make. And so, you know, for not having it, it has offered, has been used as a tool by some developers to help make the project work with the tax donation. If it's a requirement, that option's not available. I will say though, that happened a lot more a while ago. I would say that has not been the case more recently in developments, that has been, a donation has been made. If so, it's been undevelopable land. And so, but that's how we've gotten a lot of our parkland along our rivers and creeks, which has provided our trail system, land for our trail system over the years, because it really wasn't developable, but it was valuable land in the fact that we could get trails along the water. So a lot of different things really to consider on this, and but I will go back, and most cities have some form of parkland dedication.
So, you brought up, you know, I'm gonna ask the question, we're talking 27 years from now, because this will start in 2027. I will be. How probable is it that in the year 2050, that Morehouse Park is 100% in the floodplain, Darts Park is 100%, the lower 9 at Brook Tree is 85% in the floodplain and can't be used as parks? I'm looking at, when you said we're you know, according to the numbers today, we're gonna need 200 more acres of parkland. But if those parks have to be taken off because they're now in the floodplain, you can't add amenities, you can't put amenities in those. Does that increase that number to 550 acres that we're gonna need?
Well, we could put, I mean, we could go down that road all day long on anything. I mean, if, you know, lots of different versions, but in short, good planning puts parks along the waterways. We're going to want parks along the waterways because it's not somebody's house that's flooding. And, you know, that's gonna lead to good planning. That's why we continue to put parks and trails along our waterways. We're gonna continue to do that and push for that, to be able to protect those. Yeah, if we need more acres, you know, it's a level of service number. That said, where we are right now, you've got to find a way to put a metric on something. That's the number that the NRPA uses. You know, it's per 1,000 acres per 1,000 residents, and so it's a measure that's comparable and that you can measure it.
Dan? Go ahead, Don. 3 questions.
3 questions?
Lucky second.
Okay, no, I was number 3. I would agree with Doug, if we wanna try and minimize, you know, the impact and cost on developers. Having said that, I think if it came push to shove, I would like to see a hybrid option 2, where on the excessiveness or accessibility, taking out number 2 and putting in number 1, where you had said no, staff wouldn't recommend it. I think from a timing standpoint, if we go with an option 2, I would like to, as you said, number 1 instead of number 2, And then as far as allocation, I would like to see option C. Having said that, looking at your options, I see my ward gets the bottom of the pool as far as dollars. So, that's why I think option C would be something that, again, push come to shove, if we had to do that, I would like to see a blended option 2 with those changes.
Yeah, the option 1 and the option 2 on all of these slides are fairly independent of each other. It was really pick right, pick left, and as we go through all of this, that's really where we need to get. So if we are going to write an ordinance, we could draft it using these numbers, and frankly, any of those numbers or percentages, you know, we had to come with something. Any of these numbers, percentages, dollar amounts, any of that could change. It's really trying to get a couple methodologies in front of you, how we wanna do it. Here's some real life numbers, and go from there.
I just see that Dave always gets the money anyways.
And I think at $833,000, I agree with Troy, we're probably hamstringing some of these projects, and we want the projects to happen. On the other hand, 257, is that enough to make a sustainable difference?
Yeah, and I don't think the intention would be that the parkland dedication fee would fund all new park.
Correct.
It would be a chunk of money that would help
But at a
move some
quarter
of
of
that stuff along.
At $250,000 in 5 years, that's gonna require a lot of assistance from the city come budget time. Cause 257, that's for the whole city, and when you break that out by ward, not much money there. And as we grow, as you know, I'd like to have some monies there to be able to react when new neighborhoods are built and they're looking for a park. But like I said, I think option 1 is a little bit too aggressive. Option 2 is maybe not aggressive enough. Doug?
I just wanna end up with something that doesn't constrain you two at all. Cause you're doing it, you're in the middle of it, you have a great feel for what you do. I don't want a rule to eliminate something that you guys could work through with a developer.
Well, what I will say is, if there's a parkland dedication fee, then that's the ordinance, and the write-offs cannot happen with any project then. Because it's a requirement, versus anything over the top, so it's, you know, as we move forward, it's either a requirement or it's not.
Well, and I will say, if there's land donations that exceed what our ordinance is, that could be a write-off.
Yeah, I agree. If there's dedicated land donation, absolutely. Nate?
I tend to prefer incentives to requirements. Land development is a tough game, from what I know of it already. I have pretty serious concerns about this dissuading developers over further than we already have. We do not have a lot of developers developing in Owatonna, large scale development. This is just one more thing. I worry this is just gonna be one more thing. Death by 1,000 cuts. We have this requirement, that requirement. I'm a little bit concerned about it. And the rationale that, well, if they don't pay it, it gets pushed onto taxpayers. It's our community. If we want it, we should pay for it. I don't know why we think a developer should have to cover the costs. We all want it, we want it public, we all want to utilize it and enjoy it, but we don't want to pay for it. I disagree with that. So I have some pretty serious reservations about it. I like the donations, I like that being optional, and I don't like the idea that we have to set up a program and then we're gonna have to make special accommodations to get around it, further complicating the whole process. Okay.
I just have one more question. And Greg, you have sent us some information on the parks, and there's 33 parks. If we're going forward with parks, are they gonna be neighborhood parks? Because I'm assuming a neighborhood park may not have all the amenities that, you know, a community park does. Is that just open land that kids can play in, or? Because I see we have 1 regional park, 5 community parks, 1 community athletic complex, 5 neighborhood parks. I won't go through the list, but 4 mini parks, which I would like to get rid of, because I don't see people utilizing them, but, I mean, what are we talking about when we're talking about those types of parks?
All right, so as we look, this is a map from our comprehensive plan. This is included in your background report. As you can see, these yellow circles were what was identified in the 2050 comprehensive plan as community parks, neighborhood parks, and so these were essentially the way were put into circles as general search areas moving forward. I will say that this plan did consider Mineral Springs Estates as essentially constructed as that parkland there, because that was already approved in PUD. So with that being said, you know, we've got a neighborhood park, we've got a more regional park up in this area here, we've got a community park northeast, we've got a neighborhood park kind of over Rose Street East area, and then we've got a large community park as well as including a neighborhood park in this area. So this one down here was meant to be 100+ acres, substantial size. I believe our community parks are developed as 10 to 20 acres, and I think our neighborhood parks are 5 to 10 acres is what our comp plan defines those as. And so anything that's not on this map, now we also have trail systems shown on this map as well. If it's not on here, it is not being considered as a park. So just because, you know, we use Troy's land as an example when he came in earlier, just because he's got a corner of his lot that he wants to give me, doesn't mean the city's going to accept that. We are gonna say, we don't have a park identified in your area, we're gonna take cash in lieu of the land dedication, we're gonna use that to fund other facilities. You know, as we have for our master plan. So we're not just taking a little 1/4 acre over here and 1/4 acre over there, here's an acre. The goal is, this is the plan, and we follow the plan and build out and implement this plan.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, on this map, you've got 6 dedicated parks. Of the 6, how many of those properties are currently owned by the city, if any?
0.
0, okay.
Yeah, these are all future developments, so
Okay.
as we move into those areas and develop into those areas, frankly, I would say, I don't even know if one of these areas are 100% within the city limits right now.
You do have Summers Park in here, which the city owns, right off of 26th Street, correct?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
to the west of Cedar Avenue, we do not own that.
Correct,
So there's a
and it's not
portion
even
of
in
that.
city limits.
Yep.
Yep, but we identified and planned for the future, which was the goal of the comp plan when we did that.
Okay.
Toby, can I add one thing?
Yes.
To this? And we referenced the NRPA standards, and I believe that standards for that too is to have a park within a half mile of every home. And you can see up there, we have several gaps. And so this is a critical need of the community, to be able to have these parks nearby. And so this would help a lot. I'm trying to improve that.
So when we're talking the $40 million, is that talking about buying land, or is this general upkeep on the parks we have?
The $40 billion came from Parks Project identified in the 10-year CIP that the council's been working on, and so I got all the information from MJ.
Okay.
And so, Kevin, to answer your question, that includes developing Cashman Park and some of the other parks that we've identified. I think some improvements down in Lake Colmeyer and Kaplan's Woods and Morehouse too. So that's the $40 million is that. So it's really a couple of development parks, but really it's then maintaining and replacing shelters and trails.
Okay, thank you. What's next steps? What do you need from us, Greg?
Well, we've got roughly 10 minutes till the next item on the agenda. What I need is direction. This honestly is a policy decision by the council on where we're going to go with this. And so, A, are we going to have a parkland dedication ordinance, or B, we're not going to have one? And then second, if it is option A and we are gonna do a parkland dedication ordinance, what is it going to be? And that's where those options that we had laid out kind of, to move forward. So frankly, I need an answer, of where the council really wants to go with this. And then we will draft ordinances accordingly, and that will be back in front of you for approval with the zoning and subdivision ordinances.
So I appreciate Councilmember Dodson's comments. The challenge I have is in the last 5 years, we could have collected 257,000 or 833,000, and we're looking at all of these projects that happened. Did any of them kick in property or dollars for future park?
I don't believe so.
So that's my concern without, in 5 years' time, all of these projects, and no one stepped up and said, hey, we love your community, we believe in this. You know, we see parks as a need.
I would put
And I'm not blaming them because, you know, like Troy said, as a developer, they're on very tight numbers. So it's not like they can say, well, here's $5 million for a park. They don't have that option.
I would say, although it hasn't been recorded, Mineral Springs Estates did, through the PUD, was dedicating parkland to the city. And so just, you know, full disclosure, we're moving through now, that project hasn't come to fruition yet, but that did identify and zone accordingly through the PUD where that parkland would be within that 82-acre development.
So there's an instance where a larger residential subdivision, worked with us to, not because they were required, but saw the benefits and, you know, of having some parkland within the subdivision that would be beneficial to their subdivision and increase, some of the water park area, with more parkland. And so, the bigger subdivisions, many times we'll see the benefits of having some parkland within the subdivision because it'll increase the value of the houses within that subdivision.
Yeah. And one of two things happens. We either collect some money, or when that neighborhood is all built up, they say, hey, we need a park. And now you need to come up with $4 million out of the budget for a park. And that's, how many levy points?
20.
20 points. That's for one park. And,
But if you were really interested in a park, you wouldn't have bought in a development without a park. You got a choice, you can buy there or not.
most developments are just platted. So there's nothing there. There's no streets, there's nothing there.
Gotta do your homework and see what's coming.
But how active are we on the other side in encouraging this and partnering with the developer to say, okay, if you make accommodations for the city to have a park, here's what we're gonna do to help develop the park. We can work together.
Yeah.
I just don't like a vehicle.
I think in that case, the developers don't get to see that they're cracking on subdivisions, but they don't, that can't be developed without an ordinance in place. I mean, I think we need to have an ordinance. I think we need some type of hybrid between the options presented. Maybe it gets us $500,000 instead of $250,000. Sure, it's not a lot of money, but it's something that would help maintain parks that we have, or
Not maintain.
maintain new parks. I don't know how you want to go about this, Craig, but ours.
Well, I'm not sure we're all on whether we're gonna do it or not yet. I'm not sensing we're all in unison on whether we're gonna do it or not. So I guess that's the first question, is whether we have parkland dedication fee or not.
Dan?
Just a comment, yes, I think we should have a parkland dedication fee. When I came in tonight, I was thinking, start slow and start small. But on the other hand, I think if we make an ordinance, we can repeal an ordinance, we can change an ordinance. Now I'm of the opinion that Owatonna has enough to offer, that we're struggling to attract development, just like every other community is. but I think we have enough to offer that we could offset that. I think that, now I'm looking more at option one, depending on the old horse traders over there. If we push comes to shove to work around something, to make it work. And if it comes back from you guys saying, we can't sell this, we can always repeal it or change it. So I would be in favor of being aggressive with option one.
Dave?
I try to keep things simple. And it goes back to Jenna's comment on, you get a development, you put the park there first, then the houses will come up around it. If I was building a home and I have little kids yet, and it's gonna be within a few minutes of a park, I'm probably gonna follow through and build it. And I think as far as incentives for builders, I think the city has looked into that a little bit with infrastructure coming from the curb, hooking up and not charging that cost as an incentive. So I'm in favor of parks first, housing next.
So if I'm gonna, go ahead, Don.
I already said my thoughts on the thing. I mean, I would like to see a hybrid itself if we're gonna go forward in that direction. And
So-
option C.
If I go ahead and summarize this, I think the majority are in favor of going forward with the parkland dedication fee. You would like me to put something together that, let's say roughly doubles option two to make it closer to $500,000, and using some of those, my high recommendations as we went through here, and dragging those in, and that's kind of our ordinance.
For the record, I would say I would not vote for that at this point.
Greg, is there some comparables you can show of what other cities are using or what their levels are?
Yeah, we provided those in our last two meetings. I don't have them with me today. but-
Maybe that can get resent out too, to give kind of an idea of what your proposal option 1 and 2 is and compared to what the other communities are at.
And just another comment, I guess, Greg, my personal opinion would be on the low end, and we can always change and go up. Kind of the folks comment on the other end, on the reverse side. Because I don't see, tons of developers speeding their way to our door to develop, and Brian, I think you had said it, they're kind of expecting it anyways. But I don't wanna stifle potential growth. So again, I would look at more on the light end. So that's my comments. Up to
Greg,
hybrid.
sorry. Greg, could you, and I agree, I'm looking for option 3, something in between those. I'm just curious if you or your staff could put together at that 450 to 550 mark, what impact that would have had in the last 5 years of both developments. Is that something that we could get in the future?
We can do anything.
Can you wash my car?
It'd be easier than parkland dedication.
Give us some more money, that's what we want.
Yeah, we can put together anything and put numbers together. What we'll do is we'll come up with a proposal that's a little bit more than option 2, and come through there to try and hit kind of what I've heard as the majority here dancing through. I will have, here's the proposal, and we will get you something bullet pointed out. It's not gonna be this week, but maybe next week. And
So we got a couple more minutes here. Dan?
Again, I'd like to reiterate that option 1, even if we would double option 2 to $500,000, that's $100,000 a word in 5 years. I mean, spit. I mean, that's nothing compared to what and it's just gonna continue going. And if we're gonna get after something, let's get after something. If it doesn't work out, we made a mistake and we're losing development, then we can scramble and repeal or reduce. But let's get after it. And to do that is like nothing. Their developers already kind of expect, what are you gonna require for this?
So as I could show comparisons, the one question I would have, so if I sell Troy my 20 feet, we have to go through and replat that? Are we taking a parkland dedication charge on that?
I would say no,
Okay,
not on a replat.
because that's gonna strike some of these numbers out here, and then I'll come back to it.
It's when it's developed that everything else takes place, correct?
Creating something new that's developable.
Unless it's Troy, then I would say yes.
Troy pays.
All right, I think I've got direction for where we need to go and what we're gonna draft and come back forward with. We will run something back by you at some point.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
So we're a minute behind, but that's not bad, this was critical. So we're now up to the Children's Cemetery and back to Mr. Tim for that.
Thank you, I can get Peter's thank you. And they've got your information in the packet, Ann, and then,
So we read it all.
they're bringing it, yep. They studied it, we gave them a test.
So you all know me, but I would like to introduce you to Tim Shea, we kind of call him the cemetery man. He is the sort of volunteer that every nonprofit would love to have. He lives in Twin Cities during the summer, and about 4 years ago, he came to visit the Orphanage Museum on the spur of that sort of thing, and they went down to the cemetery.
Can you speak in the microphone, please?
She Googled all the way here, she said, where the orphanage here from down here. So she said, well, there's a cemetery, there's a cottage, let's go. And so we went down to the cemetery, she was so distraught almost that you couldn't read anything on the headstone. So we're driving back, and I said, yeah, it's a shame you can't read those, they should really have somebody clean it up. But who's gonna do it? Well, she didn't have to be, you are. And so, you know.
He follows orders.
Yeah, I look dumb, but I'm not gonna argue with anyone with that much of it. So I started thinking the headstones, and it kind of spiraled. I started getting interested in children. I went down to the History Museum in St. Paul, and I now have close to 7,000 records on the children. Their death certificates, their report cards, their state agent. So it's become an obsession. And what bothers me mostly is we're sitting on the best kept secret, historic secret in the state of Minnesota. You know, nobody really knows about it. So I've been working with the History Museum to see if they can publicize it more. They only publicize what they manage, like Split Rock, or Split Rock, Hill House. So I'm trying to get them involved to push them. So what that means is more visitors, more money that comes into the city of Owatonna. I've got to say, I fall in love with Owatonna. You know what a nice community it really is. So we should have more visitors here. So that, speaking of parks, we kind of try to turn it into a destination park where people can come and, you know, pay respects to the children.
And also learn more about them, because he's gathered information. We know the story of the children, why they ended up here, what their illness was, but you know, none of the stories are happy stories, but they're different enough that they reflect maybe the 10,000 kids that were here. There's an example of different families. So people that make it down there, especially if Tim's there, they can't get away. But well, I don't know, we'll see tonight. So what Tim did was he stimulated interest in doing more down at the Children's Cemetery. And as the years went on out, you're in your fourth year, I believe. Last year, we lost all the remaining trees that were down in the cemetery because of the Emerald Ash War. Some of them were just dead. So it's, I think if Jason could go forward a couple slides, you can see, there's Tim, and you can see the work that he did, that the stones that are clean are much easier to read, and he was very diligent in doing the right way that they do that at Arlington Cemetery. So go forward one more, please. So that was last summer after the trees came down. There's been some grass added, but it's very stark now. That's when we started talking about it would be nice to get some shade trees back up there, different ways that we can encourage people to come visit the children's cemetery. We're talking about including QR codes that would tell some of the stories of the kids that people can listen to. So what this evolved into was, well, what do we need to do that? And we made a presentation to the Owatonna Foundation, their May deadline, and they came back with a $10,000 grant that would allow for infrastructure to bring water down to the children's cemetery, which if we plant trees and a small garden, we're going to need that. We need that for some people who bring their plants for watering. Right now, Tim, I think you brought all your water with you. Gallons of water. So we're foreseeing by the middle of September that all of our little projects will be done. I think if we go one more slide ahead, one more. See, back up, please. Can you see how much it's deteriorated in the 33 years? So we're talking about there's different means of fixing that masonry, that it will look decent again. People come and put little toys down at the children's cemetery too, but that definitely needs to be cleaned up. And then if you go to the next one, Jensen. So this is what we would like to do. We want to repair that main cemetery monument, bring water to the cemetery. We have 11 children whose names on the crosses are misspelled. Millie became Willie, and now she'll be going back to be Millie. Tim has been working with Boy Scout troop today. They straightened slanting gravestones. They're all in nice alignment right now. We want to create a low maintenance perennial garden because I know that can be hard to keep track of, and disease resistant trees that grow quickly, and then update the information on the children, and then update the signage that will help the visitors. So the QR codes are a big part of it. So if you go to the last slide, last April, the West Hills Commission, we presented to them, and they recommended that it get advanced to the City Council. They approved the plan, so tonight we're requesting that the City Council approve the renovation upgrade project at the Children's Cemetery.
And what you're probably enjoying most, we're not asking for money.
Yes, we have the funding. Isn't that what everybody comes here with, the money? Do you have any questions? Yes, Mr.
Dave.
Burbank.
Sir, you are a blessing to the city of Owatonna.
Oh, thank you.
For to take that project on.
Well, it's become an obsession. I've literally fallen in love with these kids. Every story is horrendous, and they were basically taken out of the trash, to be honest. They had no life before. Our mission is kind of to tell their story and get them some recognition, after the fact, but still recognition.
There's a phrase that I've heard many times. A person dies twice, once physically, and then the last time that your name is spoken by someone. So we've had little resurrections down there at the cemetery because we've become familiar with a lot of the children.
This is
No,
on
we
our.
can't vote on that, sir. This is a study session.
Right. So, just so the council knows, this is in your packet for consent for tonight to move forward, to authorize to move forward with the work and accept the grants.
So any reservations from the city side?
Well, the cemetery is owned by the city, right? And the city works with the History Center a lot on the campus here with the story that's behind this campus. And so Anne has worked a lot on the cemetery with us. And so the only reservations that I would have is that at one point we were kind of like commingled with funds and then with the separation. So I think the staff just needs to work on with Anne in the History Center, just on realigning that agreement moving forward, and then how funds are being managed on the city cemetery project. But we certainly appreciate the work that Anne and her team does on the attention that they're using their expertise on the cemetery and the grounds.
So with that, are you comfortable moving forward without an agreement in place?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Come down to the cemeteries.
Yeah.
Then we'll be there.
So we have a few minutes here. Any updates on boards and commissions?
I just have maybe a comment, if that's okay. The water park is closed, but I wanted to make mention that Jesse and Danny have done a great job with our lifeguards. They were down at Arts Park today, spreading wood chips in the park. And I stopped and talked to them a little bit. And that wasn't their first choice of what they wanted to do, but they were doing a great job. One of the kids gave me a little bit of a hard time, so, oh, this is my second choice. I said, don't BS me. But they were doing a great job. I mean, they did. Darts Park looks fabulous. Mineral Springs, they also got to that, so I'm assuming they will go around taking care of it. So I think it's a really neat deal that Park and Rec is working together, utilizing resources that we have to maximize the return that we're getting. So they're really good kids. They were wearing their lifeguard stuff, so it was really cool.
Well said. All right, we will, oh, Dan.
Could you speak to the two pools that we have and accurately talk about the issues that we've got that are something both down so that the public knows what they need from?
Sure, I'll do it pretty quickly. The outdoor pool has a break underground, under the concrete somewhere. And we had a pressurized test. We thought we had the leak, but there must have been more than one leak. And so they are coming back on June 22nd to repressurize the system to see where the leak is at so we can find the leak to fix it. We're hoping that we'll keep them so we can figure out if there's more than one leak again. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of people that do the pressurizing in their busy time of the year for them, so the slowness on responding has been that we can't get the company back to get it done, not because they don't care, it's just they're super busy for them. So we're hoping to get that back. It takes about a week after we get the fix, get that thing filled and then balance chemical eyes to be able to go. So the staff is chomping at the bit too. That is our outdoor park, our indoor water park here on West Hills. I believe it's the oldest pool we have in the state of Minnesota, over 100 and some years old, another one. And with that one, we are working, we have an update on that one. Commission that one?
There are two different versions of corrections that we can do. We are going to go with a lower cost fix. Our intention is to move forward with that later this summer, so hopefully it's ready to go in the fall.
That one is another Band-Aid, and so it is fingers crossed that it'll hold us for some time. The larger is multi-thousands of dollars to try to fix it, and again, it's a very, very old pool, oldest one in the state of Minnesota. So trying to do a minimal, see if we can get some more traction, but it is at the end of its life.
Another comment, to paraphrase Doug Wass, an outdoor pool in the state of Minnesota, geez, what could go wrong? Freezing and thawing and the corrosion of the connections, and I believe we've already fixed 2 or 3 leaks at River Springs already. Now there's a 4th one, it's like an old radiator, the pressure at the weak point just started popping all over. I don't know if the citizens know that that's only open on 77, 78 days a year to begin with. It's out there pool, and it'd be interesting to have some feedback from the public, because we're already looking at about $1.5 million worth of upcoming maintenance on this pool. It'd be interesting to hear from the public, is that worth levy dollars to put in the outdoor pool for $78 a year? I realize we got the pool funded by individual donors, but it takes a lot of dough to maintain that. The admissions that we get basically cover operations for the year, but the admissions do not add anything to future maintenance needs. That's kind of just the way they all run. So it sure be nice to hear from the constituents. Is it worth putting the money in, or should we just walk away from it? Should we sell it to a private vendor? Maybe they can make it go with it and take care of all of the maintenance that's coming
I
up.
don't think you're doing a very good job selling it, Dan. I don't think you're gonna find a buyer.
Dan said sell. You don't have to sell. Someone wants to invest in it, you can have it.
We'll talk.
All right, we will adjourn until 7 o'clock. Thank you.